Okay, in today's video I'm going to take you through the different part names and functions of one of our Metalwork lathes. Okay, as you can see, it's quite a big machine that we can use in third year course and into our senior courses as well. Okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through each part. I'll tell you the part names and I'll tell you a bit more about the function, because these are the things that you will need to know when it comes to any practical exams or any homework tasks that you're given throughout the year. So, first thing we've got here is this section of the machine here, which is called our headstock. The headstock is where we use the different features, the different levers here to allow us to change gears, to change the speed ratio, to try and, depending on what kind of cutting procedure you're working on. If I bring you in a little bit closer, you'll be able to maybe see a bit easier. So, what we work with here, we've got all the different speeds on the little menu down below here. And the way we change the speeds is we change the lever positions that we can see above. Most of the procedures that you do in the Metalwork course will require you to work within the same speed, and what we tend to work with in the third and fourth year courses is position C and D, so the yellow and blue, and it's in a low speed, not a high speed, but a low speed of 1,050 reps per minute. Okay, that's the kind of the safest speed for we want to work with most of the procedures that you're going to be doing this year. The only other kind of speed that we would tend to change it to is to the lowest setting, okay, which is at 59 reps a minute, and that's in position E and A. And the only way you would do that to change it is you would basically pull these levers out left and right, and that would allow you to get the lowest speed. The lowest speed we would tend to work with when it comes to doing what's called a knurling, and I will explain to you in another video all the different kind of cuts and different ways you can do things, and I'll show you the knurling process later on. Okay. What you also have on this headstock is you have just a light. The light shows you if the machine is on, so if it's lit up, the machine has got power. We've got an emergency stop button below, which you can obviously use if you need to turn the machine off in a hurry. And we have the on button here, which is this white button down below. The rest of the stuff that's here, you don't necessarily need to know about too much. It's mainly the on-off switch and the gear system. Okay, so we have our headstock, which is the main body of the main part of the machine for all the gears. And then on the opposite end, we have this part here, which is called the tailstock. And again, I'll bring you a bit closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So, tailstock, what we've got here, this is a part of the machine that you can move up and down, depending on where you want the position to be. There is a lock at the back. All right, this lock here will stop the machine, the tailstock, from moving about. And what this allows us to do is we can put in different chucks. If I spin this little wheel out, sorry, I'm standing. All right, you can see the open end here. We can actually apply and we can put in a chuck. I'll just grab one just now. So we've got our kind of 3-jaw Jacob's chuck that if we were planning to do any drilling, we can place that into the end of our tailstock, and then it allows us to drill into any material that we have in the chuck itself. Okay. We also have another lever here at the top, which will stop the chuck from moving in and out, so it stops the wheel essentially turning. But with this, when you're using this part of the machine, you want to tend to kind of leave that one loose. It's the bigger handle at the back that stops this from moving. Okay, loosen the handle, and that allows you to slide that back to where it needs to go. Tailstock. Okay, so we've got headstock, we have our tailstock, which is the bottom end of the machine. The middle part, this section here in the middle, this allows us to move up and down. All right, this part here is called our carriage, and we've got our carriage wheel, which is this lever here, and it allows us to move the whole carriage left and right. Okay, and I'll bring you a bit closer again so we can see more detail of the carriage. So on the carriage, what we have is we have the lever, the wheel at the bottom, which I was showing you before, that allows us to move the carriage left and right. We've also got another wheel at the top here. This wheel here is called a cross slide, and this allows this part of the machine here, which I'll explain in a minute, goes forwards and backwards. Okay, you can just about see that moving in the video. We also have another wheel here, which is called a compound slide. This wheel here allows us to move this part only left and right. So you can see that moving left and right. So the movement on this part is a lot less, All right, it only's got a smaller movement that you can work with. And the whole purpose of all of this moving, whichever way it is, left and right, forwards and backwards, or this part moving forwards and backwards as well, is to move this part of the machine here. Okay, and I'm going to bring you a bit closer so you can see. Part here on top is called our tool post. The tool post allows us to have 3 different tools on at once, and we can use each tool for different processes depending on what we're doing. So we've got the tool post here, which is called our just our facing off tool, and it's used for parallel turning, facing off, and for taper turning. We also have another tool, which is this one here. It looks very similar to the one before, but it's set to a 45-degree angle, and it's used for our chamfering. And again, I'll explain these processes a little bit later in a different video. And lastly, we've got this tool here, which is called our parting tool, and it allows us to basically cut into our material, and we can part it off completely, or we can cut in down into a depth. Okay, we have another tool that we can use as well, which is this one here. This is the one I was saying before, where he's got a knurling tool. All right, so it's got 2 little wheels that spin, and the idea behind this is it adds a grip to your material. Okay, it doesn't cut your material. It essentially is like teeth marks, and it bites into your material. Okay, and leaves a little imprint. Okay. What we can also see is we have this part of the machine here, which is our chuck. Okay, this is a 3-jaw chuck, because you've got 1, 2, 3, and the main purpose of this chuck is to allow us to put in a piece of material. So if I wanted to turn this bar down or work with this piece of material, this bit of steel, what I would do is, using a chuck key, all I would do is place that in there, and I could open it up, and as you can see here in the video, I have all 3 jaws opening up at the same time, and then placing my material in, I can then tighten up using the chuck key, nice and tight, and that's not going anywhere. Okay, so it's a self-centering chuck, which means it's much easier to get your material in the center for you to go ahead and work with your process. Okay, so when working with these machines, safety is paramount. Okay, not only do you need to have your own PPE gear on, so your glasses and things like that ready to work with this, any loose clothing, ties, etc. taken off or tucked away. Okay, you also have on the machine here is you've got a chuck guard. All right, that guard comes down and it protects the chuck from spinning when it's turned on. Now the machine itself is set up so that the machine will not turn on unless this guard is down. All right, so if the guard is up, you can hear a little kind of humming at the moment. That's the machine saying it's kind of coming on. If I lift it up, you can hear there's no kind of humming there. So the guard down allows the machine to actually be turned on in the first place. You can hear the machine turning away. Okay, so you got a chuck safety guard there for the chuck. You also have this splash guard that comes down over the top of everything, and the main reason for that is for you standing here, you look down through the little perspex screen here, and it helps protect any bits of metal coming up and basically potentially hitting you. It comes up and it'll hit off the little bit of the plastic. Okay, you also have, for other safety features, like I said before, you have your emergency stop button on the left hand side of the machine here on the headstock, but also on the floor you have, if I put the camera down, we've also got an emergency stop on the floor there that you can kick with your feet if you need to. Okay, so a few more things to show you on the lathe. So what we have to turn the machine on itself, so we've got our chucks, our safety guards down, and we've got our splash guard down there as well. To turn the machine on, we have to press the white button down below. So that white button allows the machine to kind of start to generate, and it starts to put a bit of coolant, a bit of oil. There's a little dial here on just next to the chuck, and you can't see it in the video, but it's a little thing here that will fill up with oil, and when it's full up to the top, then you know it's ready to go. To get the chuck to actually spin, if I open this up so you can see, the handle down below here next to the carriage wheel, if I pull it out towards me, so out to the right hand side, and then I pull it down, you can now see that we've got our chuck now spinning. And if I release the handle by pulling it back up, you can now see that the chuck is starting to slow down, and eventually it will stop. Okay, so last thing to show you regarding the Metalwork lathe is on each lathe we have a set of tools. What we've got in this box here is we've got our Jacob's chuck that I was showing you before. That allows us to do any kind of drilling to our material. We've also got this tool here, which is called a revolving center, which I can use to hold my material if I'm having to have it far away from the chuck, and it'll allow it to spin. gives it a bit extra support. You've also got a couple of tools here at the back. These tools that you can use to adjust the heights of the tools that you've got to do your cutting. All right, so sometimes they need to be reset and back to center again. So again, I'll show you in another video how you go and do that. You've also got this tool post key. All right, the tool post key goes in the center of the tool post. It loosens the bolt, and it allows you to then rotate the tool post around to select a different tool for a different cutting process. And you've got a spanner. All right, the spanner allows you to adjust the compound slide, and again I can show you that in another video. What we also have is we've got our chuck key. So the chuck key will allow you to take your bit of metal into the chuck and tighten it up and loosen it. We've also got two center drills. All right, depending on what your job you're doing, you can use a center drill before you do any drilling. We've got a chuck key, again smaller chuck key, which is used alongside the Jacob's chuck to allow you to put a drill in. And last thing we've got in the toolbox here is we've got a torque screw, and I'll show you what the torque screw is used for later on when it comes to the tools. Okay, and also on top of here you've got a light. So we've got a light switch we can turn on by pressing that switch there, and you can see the light coming on and off. What we also have is the screen. All right, this is our kind of electronic screen here that allows us to set the machine up if we need to, and it gives us a bit more accuracy when we come to do any kind of cutting and shaping. So again, I'll show you this maybe in another video, but the idea behind it is if I move the carriage wheel left and right, you can see the numbers change depending when I do the movement left and right, which is the bottom number. The top number is the cross slide. If I move that forwards and backwards, again, I can get that changing depending what movement I'm going. I can also press the 0 button here, if the little kind of yellow arrow, I can set that back to 0 again, and I'm going to show you in another video the purpose or the main reason why we'd use this. Okay.